Good morning and welcome, friends. Patented noodle soup indeed. Thank you. Thank you for joining us this morning. Just following that little different pattern, something different today. Hope you all had a good introduction and morning this morning. It's great to see everybody here. All the usual suspects I see, from Lung Yub to Nathan at Commercial Sound and Video. Man, I'm totally stoked. Can't wait for the jam session. I'm sure we'll chat more as the days count down a little bit closer. Bullseye Dragon, Rob B, great to see you guys. Sue, my friend, always a pleasure. We're going to have so much fun. I'm going to better be careful because I might break your ribs. I accidentally broke my wife's ribs one time. We were very excited to see each other. And it cracked two of her ribs, and she had a difficult time telling the doctor it was not domestic violence related. Domestic, but not violence. Hey, Rob Cleveland, it's just great to see you. I'm blushing now. Can you tell? I didn't mean to tell that story. Mark Bloom, hey, my friend. Allison Winston, hey, good to see you. Son, I'm still blushing. Man, my face is bright red. Oh, dear. Maybe we should just get on with the content. No, it's great to see everybody this morning. If you have not yet, hey, Ceiling Fan Man, that was a great stream last night. I didn't catch it live, unfortunately, but I did. I got shook up when you said hard to see names like Unintended Consequences. Oh, dear. I've done it now. Hey, I can't wait to do another stream with you, brother. It will be delightful. Oh dear, I'm still blushing. Oh man. So yes, there's a difference between transparency and full disclosure. There's some things that people don't need to hear, I guess. Okay, reset. So if you haven't gotten your tickets yet to gather with the tribe, the big one, of course, is going to be the 27th in Greenville, South Carolina, rather. Get your tickets for that. Go to flatearthfestivals.com and you can get your tickets there. And there's accommodations available, all that good stuff. Check out Karen B's social media for all the info on that. Also on the 20th, don't forget, coming up in Shelton, Washington, at Neyland Park, 2 p.m. on the 20th. There's going to be a kind of Flatober West get-together, including Ceiling Fan Man, the aforementioned, and Mark Sargent and myself and a bunch of other folks. So make sure and put that on your calendar as well. And I think there's also an upcoming one in the Northeast in Connecticut. Check out Deep Inside the Rabbit Hole, David Weiss. All his social media should have information on that. It seems to be a bit of a moving target, but I'm sure they'll have the latest and greatest there. Again, I'm so delighted that you guys could come back and join us this morning, and it's going to be this is one stream that might have been better had I pre-recorded it and put down a bunch of thoughts that I had prior, but hopefully I can remember some of them. Part of the reason for doing noodling at the beginning and making it extemporaneous or just improvised is that it kind of clears my mind and helps me be a bit more stream of consciousness and stay open to however you want to say it, the spirit or dad or the universe, or however you want to put a label on that, if you do or don't. I just kind of, I don't know, try to open myself up to the Creator and let Him speak to my heart. And that's what I do when I try to, when I play in that fashion. But that also kind of clears my mind to do the streams. But sometimes I find that doing so, you miss some of the things you'd intended to say. So maybe I wasn't supposed to say those things. How about that? Channeling? Yeah, that's a good word for it. So anyway, we'll try to accomplish some things this morning and share with you some thoughts that I'd had over the week. There is, in fact, I'll begin here with a couple of, I guess, confessionals. Conversation I had with my beloved bride, Madeline, who is doing much better. Thank you. She had a really difficult experience this week in the emergency room for an evening, and very curious things went on at the hospital. They were very much Nazis. Not even so much about face coverings. But as soon as we got her checked in, they kicked me out, and it was bad. I just you can refer to the Cocky Pop episode earlier this week that in which I explained that it was very unpleasant indeed. Without revisiting that, anyway, she had So I've said before, she doesn't has I don't think has ever listened to a single one of my streams or episodes, and not because she doesn't care, but largely because she can hear much of it. We're in very, very small space, and so she gets most of it. When there's guests or other things going on, she doesn't catch all of it, so doesn't know exactly when. So she's like, I know what the Sunday thing's about, and I know what the cocky pop is about. So what is what's the Saturday thing again? It's like, well, kind of pontificating, I suppose, and just looking at the world around us, and kind of from a perspective, I'm like, I don't really make, unlike some other content creators in our community, I generally don't, unless I come upon something rather unique or different. Dig deep. I don't really lead tours down particular rabbit holes in that regard, or specifically trying to do any research. I do that with Jason and Wayne on Secrets of Saturn weekly. So this is more, again, kind of looking at the world. That I don't make much in the way of claims, but consider that for most of you, those things are kind of a given, right? Preaching to the choir, and really better taking a look at how we got here, and looking inside. And I see the lovely Beth Martin's here, and a perfect person to talk about in some of these things is that addressing some of the issues that happen within us. We have, I think, a pretty good idea of what's going on around us, at least. Again, I've said it's kind of a misnomer to say that it's truth community, because we don't know much about the actual truth. Much of it's hidden or occluded or destroyed, but we know we're being lied to, right? So we develop discernment to such a degree that we can kind of rightly divide what is what. Hey, Michelle, great to see you, and hope to catch you again later. So as we do this, right, we kind of tribe up, and we see things in a certain way. And it causes, again, unintended consequences, right? Thus the name of the channel. That it wasn't the intent when you follow truth to end up, right? So like your name, hey, how did we get here, right? It's right on time. So we kind of look around and say, hey, how did we get here? What happened? And it's not just that we had a life-changing and paradigm-shifting experience in having the foundational presuppositions of our world challenged for such a degree that they even wonder is it real at all? Is it a matrix? Is it a simulation? Right? When you realize that everything that's been told to you throughout your entire life is a lie, it's a deception, and it shakes you up a bit, and it makes you certainly less trusting, but also much more canny. And then you realize that the illusory nature of the world. Hey, Mr. Cut, folks, welcome. The illusory nature of the world is such that you want to tell people around you, and of course they're having none of it. And as it turns out, they become, as I guess Matt from Quantum of Conscience credits somebody else for saying, like the Palace Guard. They mindlessly become defenders of the system that is there to oppress them. And so it causes these conflicts in our life. And we often, I think many people get so caught up in the seeking after truth. And they have become so exasperated at a program and attacks, unfair attacks, and the sliming and the hit pieces, that you become, Agent Smiths, exactly, Rob. And so it is understandable that one becomes a little edgy in their disposition. And so to that effect, I mean, I suppose, so I'll do this. I'll switch over here, and I'll give you something to look at in the background. Typically, it's just handy visuals of a nature thing in the background, but I'll give you some other, not to distract you, but I'll give you something else to consider as I think through this. So when I was younger, that's my confessional here, Father, forgive me for I have sinned. So when I was younger, I did not well receive criticism. And I took it as, it was a complex thing, right? So I took it as not only criticism of whatever the work or the behavior, whatever was going on, but of me personally. and it meant somehow that I was defective or really unlovable. And this is kind of became the foundation of part of my worldview for a very long time, that I felt that I needed to defend my actions and behavior. And to some degree, this still haunts me to this very day. Because as much as I love words and I love to put them together, I love to write and read, I also have become, as you no doubt have recognized, somewhat loquacious, if you will. Wayne McCroy likes to joke that he belongs to the support group on and on and on for people who are friends of those who just talk too damn much. I'm guilty of that. But as a part of that, I often feel that I'm misunderstood, right? Like nobody gets me. I think that's common to people generally. And so, yeah, I tend to have a tendency to sort of over-explain, right? Like how I got to some decision or defend an action or a belief. And that was a really painful part, and in fact, a big chunk of my life of being unable to differentiate between the criticism of the behavior and the person. And in both ways, right? Whether I saw somebody else doing something that I didn't like, and so they became an asshole, right? Or if somebody said they didn't like something that I did, or I did it wrong, that they were saying that I'm an asshole. And, nobody wants to be thought of as an asshole unless I guess that's your purpose, is to be an asshole. And that's now pretty common these days. But I took it very personally when and also very perfectionist, right? Set very high standards for myself, and I didn't want to do anything unless I was very good at it. And so I avoided things that I could not be very successful at. And and then that was a bit of laziness, I think, as well, right? It's the path of least resistance. And so if I could not achieve it very quickly, that wasn't going to suit me, because, who had time for that? When I could already excel better than, say, 50, 60%, I could be in the top half, certainly, with very little effort. And some things even higher than that, with very little effort indeed. But sooner or later, of course, you reach the level of your own incompetence. And also, again, when you take everything personally, and you're in a work environment that's constantly changing, and is largely subjective, then it becomes even more stressful when everybody's got their thoughts about it, and egos are involved, and people want to put their dick print on every project. And so you begin to over-explain yourself, and that sounds like a bunch of fucking excuses, to be quite frank. It still happens to this day, even with awareness of it. And I'm no fan of it myself. But over time, one thing that I learned, and largely, in fact, I would say directly as a result of my relationship with Dad, is the understanding that this little saying that it's not what I think, nor what you think, it's what I think you think that really determines the course of my behavior. So we all sort of do the little dance to get the cheese, whatever that is. So we behave in such a way until we get mirrored to us by the other person or group a positive acceptance. So when we see the result of whatever we interpret to be the positive acceptance of us, then we're happy, we get the cheese, and so we get our little token, and we go on. And ultimately, of course, our life is entirely ruled by other people's whims, and they don't really care about you. Not that no one does, but that people do things for their own reasons, and because of them, people are primarily self-centered. And this is also good to remember when you think that someone is persecuting you, that they rarely give you that much credit, frankly. They're not out to get you. They're just doing their thing, and you got in the way. And so this is often the case of what we see with people's behaviors that is bad. For example, It's often been said that you can tell a lot about a person by the way that they treat the waitstaff at a restaurant. And if they abuse them, condescend to them, then that tells you a good deal about their inner person. And I agree with that, right? I told my kids before, when it comes to dating, ignore everything that they say and look only at what they do, because that will tell you all you need to know as you observe these things. But it is important, again, to be able to differentiate the action from the person. So when I was able to first recognize that I wasn't that important, people weren't doing things because of me, they were just doing things. And my response to it was largely what I made of it. Moreover, I didn't need or really didn't have to do whatever they thought I should do, because that fits their life. I'm not here to live their life, I'm here to live mine. And they don't know my inner person, my inner man. They don't know what's going on in my life. And frankly, they don't have my best interest in mind. They have their best interest in mind. Or what they even if they care, right? What they think, what they would do in my situation. But you see, we're not the same. And another valuable lesson to learn is that, see, we all interpret other people's actions through our own thought process and our own values. So when we see them do something, we say, well, I would only do that if I were, right, in some circumstance. And so we interpret their behavior based on that. But we are not the same. We have many things that are similar. That is true. And then we can group people into various groups or ways people process information and are more predisposed to behave. There are ways to determine that. The Enneagram, Myers-Briggs, astrology even points some of these things out, that we have tendencies. People are people. But they're different than you, and if you are not exactly them and had their shared experience, you could not know precisely what drives them. And from the inside, this is always true, that all the ways of a man are clean in his own eyes. We always justify our own behavior to be that of, to be the best. And even if other people don't like it, F them, right? Hey, David Reif, not F you, but F them, right? So we tend to give, I think, people, I don't want to say too much credit, but maybe I do want to say that. We give them too much power. How about that? We give them too much power over us. First, by needing their acceptance. I mean, it's true that we're going to need acceptance. That's just the way it's built in. But when you need the acceptance of others, when it's and then you've got to do what they want to get it. And so this is where I found the most valuable thing is the only acceptance that I need is Dad's, because he's perfect and he loves me. And when I do what he wants, everything else is good. And then the behavior of others is largely determined by how they feel about Dad, right? Because I'm not behaving out of my own desires. I'm just trying to follow Dad. And if they don't like that, then take that to Dad. So I don't give people the power over me anymore like that. It's not that I don't care what they think. It's just that it's not that important, right? It's not driving my actions. I'll take it under advisement, and I certainly don't want to offend or harm anyone. But it's just not that important to my direction. And then this idea of being able to separate the action from the person, right? And this was an enormously valuable lesson for me, because the inability to do it both externally and internally keeps you very trapped within a certain paradigm. That you cannot take any criticism, because if they criticize anything that you do, even positive criticism, you take it as an attack on your person. And this goes very much for beliefs. I'm sure you've seen this around you, that if anybody has their beliefs challenged, They take an attack on their person. They must defend to the death their personhood. And some people just simply cannot be wrong because it would mean that they don't have the right to exist in their mind, in their core being. So they must defend themselves to the death. And then moreover, when they see somebody do something that they don't like and they find particularly offensive, because again, they're judging it by themselves as the measure, then they dismiss them as a person and they're a bad person. We also see this in very sharp contrast around us, is this idea that if you don't believe as I believe, you're a crappy person and you don't have the right to exist. This is evidence of stunted emotional growth, really, and I don't mean to offend anybody if I'm describing you. Trust me, I'm describing myself, actually, for much of my life. That I was not able to get beyond those things. But having learned a new way of seeing it, it has changed everything for me. And I realize now that it is immature behavior to be unable to separate the action from the person. And that I can recognize that somebody is behaving in a way that's unacceptable without thinking poorly of them as a person. I mean, over time, if you see a pattern of development, and I mean, you know, they're showing you what kind of person they are. And given enough time, people will show you what kind of person they are. But individual actions can be addressed. And if they would correct those actions or see the wisdom in a different action, you know, there's an opportunity perhaps for change. And certainly I don't dismiss people because they have a belief system that is different than mine, or I wouldn't have a relationship with anyone. Because nobody that I know believes exactly the same as I do. Exactly the same. And here I get to what is, I think, the central theme of today's message, if you will, homily, pontification, thought experiment, rabbit hole. Is that in the past weeks I have seen, well, not only the behavior, but many remarks on the behavior that people are worn out by some of the behaviors of those who they regularly listen to in podcasts or programs or influencers in the truth community, whatever, combined with those who constantly shill, Illuminati confirmed, right? It wears people down. And again, I'm trying to, here's the thing. I try to see all the sides here. And it is absolutely, I'm not calling anybody out because, again, that would be the opposite of what I'm saying here. So that I can see behaviors and understand that a behavior I don't like doesn't mean that is a bad person. It means it's a behavior that, well, it doesn't suit me, right? And if it doesn't suit a lot of different people, then maybe they should rethink the behavior. That's not up to me, right? But I can recognize that there's a behavior that I don't like, and without dismissing the person. In the same way that I can listen to a variety of different sources of information, and even if that person is a known compromised asset, then I can still look at the information as potentially having value. I have to go research it, right, if they're asking certain questions. But I don't have to trust the information or the person, right? Eat the meat, throw away the bones. It's the whole thing. And this deals with people as well as information. Eat the meat, throw away the bones. And we're involved in a community that's going after truth, but one of the things that seems to be forgotten by many people is that part of that truth is you got to tell yourself the truth. You got to be honest with yourself. And simply having a lot of information about who did what, when, to whom, doesn't necessarily make you a better person. It might make you bright and clever and disciplined in research and a good researcher and a good expositor of that research. You might be an excellent delivery person and podcaster, very clever and able to grab a lot of subscribers with valuable information. It doesn't make you a better person. even those who don't do or expose the research, those who are in the community themselves, getting to know the information and knowing all the arguments for the 200 proofs, right? Or the Illuminati family tree, or who's related to who, or all the 13 lines of the Illuminati. It doesn't make you a better person. It makes you informed, but it doesn't make you a better person. Well, one of the things that we've come to, I think, in this community is that it has very much to do, if we've learned anything, I think, it is that we are in a spiritual battle, a battle for our very soul. And that spiritual battle has a great deal to do with being what we call higher-minded, right? Or raising your vibration, whatever you want to call it, that we are seeing things at a different level. But if you still behave at a certain level down there with hatred, vitriol, how does it serve you? What is that information? Of what value is it? Who did what to whom when? What the history of the world is? Where does that get you? If it doesn't make you progress as a person. I mean, isn't it ultimately, if we found anything out, isn't it that we are in this spiritual battle? And if it is, then what is the outcome of the battle? What's the war over? If it's for your soul, then save your soul, for fuck's sake. It's not about how much you know, right? It's about who you know and who you are. So as we consider these ideas of getting together in communal living situations and really committing our lives to one another, I came to this uncomfortable understanding that there's going to be at times an uncomfortable no, right? Because early on I recognized that when you're talking, I mean, all the factors that you include, where and how isn't necessarily as nearly as important as who. Because if with the right people, any obstacles can be overcome. With the wrong people, even the best situation will fail. It will fall apart. We are given all of our lives, and everyone's life throughout history, you're given an enemy, someone to point your hatred, to motivate people. In Huxley's 1984, not Aldous Huxley, but Orwell, 1984. Right, they're always at war, and it was just it's a construct. Here we've been given, the Nazis, then the Russians, then the terrorists. And now the domestic terrorists, and of course they're saying that the domestic terrorists are you, anyone who doesn't take on their narrative. Somehow we've gone from being radically peaceful, and all we want is to be left alone, to somehow that makes us dangerous. And so it may make us fight for our survival. But I will say again, what does it profit a man? He gain the whole world and lose his own soul. What does it matter if you live in a world that sucks? And if you are an asshole, right? If the only thing you can take out of this place is who you are and your relationships, doesn't it stand to reason to make who you are the best you can be and invest heavily in those relationships so that is your crown of glory? That's the treasure that you have? There are some people that, I've seen it commented again on social media that they can't listen anymore to some people because of they get riled up and they start, saying, taste my balls, right? That some of the best arguments are ruined by ad homs when it's not necessary. When you have the truth, there's no need for that. And it simply shows really an emotional insecurity and immaturity. And again, if you got the truth, you needn't be insecure at all. Stand in it. Live it. The lion doesn't care about the opinion of the mouse. So I don't care about the trolls, right? I don't even respond. It's like, I don't care. Make stuff up, tell people I'm lying about what? What? Name one thing I've ever lied about, right? Oh, he's ripping people off of money. When have I ever asked for money other than to give it away? Oh dear. So I don't care. But I guess what I'm saying is, when we do this thing, I expect that there's going to be a variety of different groups who are like-minded with each other, and people have a tendency to self-congregate, and that's fine. It's not that one's better than the other, right? But I think all of us, this is what I've said again to my kids in dating, right? Is if you have a certain level of person that you expect that you want to be partnered with, you owe it to them to be at least that good, if not better, right? Otherwise, it's not a fair trade. You can't go stealing it. You can't shoplift the pootie, right? If you do, you're going to get caught, right? And then you're going to be miserable. And nobody wins in that situation, right? To be disingenuous and fake. So be who you are, but if you want people to think you're good, be good. Just be good. It's easier. It's harder in some ways, right? Because everybody else isn't doing it. But man, clean conscience is the best pillow. So when we pursue these ideas, there's one reason I want to get to just know people, right? Send me emails, start talking to me. Again, I'm not the arbiter of everything, but certainly I know people I would be attracted to and I want to spend time with. And so if there are people who, have to, Nathan, thank you, man. I appreciate it. I think it's one also I need to just say, right? I just need to get off my chest and go, again, the enemy within the gates. Not just in our community, right? It's not just calling people shills. Think about it. If we understand that people can be sincere but sincerely mistaken, right? One of the answers, well, why would they lie? Does this mean that all of my teachers lied? Well, no, they got told a lie and they believed it, and so now they repeat the lie with a clean conscience, right? Well, how if we're able to understand that, how do we not, at least with some people in our community, understand that just because they, so much we have to rely on our own instincts. We have to rely on our discernment. And not everybody's going to be right all the time. I expect that I'm wrong most of the time, right? Because there's a dearth of information, right? We have data anemia. We just don't know. So we think, some things are plausible, then some things are probably less plausible, but I don't know. And then I have to trust my instincts in some cases, especially about whether people are being genuine or not. And just because they're being genuine doesn't mean that their information is right. I got to research it myself. I can't take anybody's word for anything, not because they're bad people, just because they could be wrong. I could be wrong. That's why I say don't listen to me. I can tell you my experiences and I'm not lying, but I could be wrong. It's fine, right? So, but I just want to say to somebody, calm down. If somebody said something that you don't agree with, let it go. Right? Doesn't mean that they're lying to you. There's some people you can see, can use discernment. I rarely mention any names, but there are some, I think it's probably okay. Like Russell Brand. It's clearly, you can see what he is. So I don't got to say anything, but it doesn't mean everything he says is wrong. It just means he ain't going to say, more than just snippets of stuff that's valuable. And you should be, I expect that most of you are way past that already, right? It's just not a source of information for us, right? So, again, I'm not going to go through and sort through the pile and say, I listen to this guy, not this guy, not this. Some of it has nothing to do with information. I just don't like their personality, right? So it's all right. And just because I don't like their personality doesn't make them a bad person either, right? Or a liar or a shill or anything else. It's not my cup of tea. That's all, right? And I fully expect I'm not somebody else's cup of tea. I've been me for a very long time. And so I love those, who are in the same vibe as me. And, of course you're going to like people that like you. I try to get along even with people that don't. But I can't be concerned about people that don't, and I understand we're going to have our preferences, right? It's okay. I don't have to go chasing after anybody or get butthurt if they don't, right? But when I disagree with somebody, and there's a lot, again, almost every content creator has some things I disagree with. That doesn't mean I'm going to go, liar, right? We just don't see it the same way. And I'm not even going to say they're wrong. I just see it a different way, right? It might be elements of both. I don't know, right? I don't know. And I would like to see more, but again, there are some things maybe I do know, and I really want to get back to this idea, right? Which is that, what is it, of what value is it to know the shape of the earth, or that space is fake, or the terrain theory versus, bug theory? What is it? What will it? To what advantage? To what end will it help you to know these things? Will you not just get? I mean, answer me this: doesn't it? If you don't have a reason for it, doesn't it make you just fucking miserable? Doesn't it make you just angry and pissed off and paranoid? Right? That's the result. If you've got nothing to hang on to, if you've got no reason, if there's nothing worth dying for, there's nothing worth living for. And this information, to know that the world is as fucked up as it is, that there are people doing shit that I won't even say, that hurts my heart to even think of, right? People doing that on the daily, and those are the ones telling everybody what to do, right? What kind of world is that, right? But if you don't have hope in that, then why? And so it seems to be, again, this is what we've all come to, is that this is a spiritual battle. It's a battle for your soul. And if that's the nature of the battle, why major in the minors and all down in the mud and the information about who did what to whom when the truth of it is, it's just distracting you from the source of what's really supposed to happen, which is for you to ascend in some way. I don't believe in self-apotheosis. My take on it is that I need to get to know the Creator, and the Creator will recreate me into the way He meant me to be before I got fucked up, right? And we all got fucked up. So nobody's better than anybody else in that regard. We're all broken, right? But there is one Creator who can fix you. And if you will but let Him, then so much the better. And it seems like that's the nature of the thing. So before we go attacking one another and tearing this community apart, which is, again, it's exactly what they want. Have they not been doing divide and conquer forever? Right? So they just introduce a few people who cry shill and foul, and a few other people follow along because that gets some attention, right? And it relieves some of that tension, right? Because again, if you don't have a developed spirit, then that's all you can do is get angry and miserable and hate people, right? And you're just going to attack everybody. And so that's what, that's what you see, is that enemy within themselves becomes the enemy within our ranks. The enemy within ourselves becomes the enemy within our ranks, right? It's the Agent Smiths. But more so, it's the NPCs, right? They get taken over. But you are better than that, right? You're awake, alive. You're a living man and woman. Live like it, right? Live like there is something to live for. There is no worse enemy than the enemy within. Because you can't beat him, right? You can't beat that person. You will always lose. If you can't be honest with yourself, right, then there's no hope. But if you can be honest, right, and see the condition that you're in, that we all are so far from perfection, just go, hey, Dad, help me out here, right? And it's that honesty, right? Well, that's what I want to see, right? Is that honesty of people, that transparency, just to be honest, right? We are all in a shit situation, and beating the crap out of each other is not going to help. To see who can beat the crap out of each other and get the most dirty in a mud pile, that's just dumb. Shouldn't the goal be to get out of the mud pile? Take a bath, you hippie. I love you guys. I don't know if I want to belabor the point. That's just it, right? Is look within and heal those wounds first. We are all wounded so badly that most of us can't even walk. Hey, Trey Clark, man. Thanks, buddy. Can't believe you're not coming to jam with me, dude. I'm so disappointed. I know, it's a dog-eat-dog world. I know. But we got to be, I don't know, we got to be here for each other, right? We got to be the things that we want to see. And you got to be able to be honest with yourself and look inside, right? And see where those areas of growth are. And if you can't separate the action from the person, right, then you can never take the, I'd say, criticism, right? Because you're going to defend it and defend that position, even if it's wrong, because you can't let it go, right? It's like, I'm a bad person, right? I mean, God, this is so, I can remember a time in right around my early 30s where somebody, it was a roommate, just asked for like a little change in behavior having something to do with the house. Put this over here instead of over there. And, she was like stunned because I got this like hangdog look. Like I felt like I was a loser, right? Because I did something that wasn't appropriate or accepted. And that shook me up. And I mean, it really changed things because it really wasn't about anything like that. I wasn't a bad person because I put something in a place that she didn't prefer and she wanted it in some other place. I just needed to say it didn't even matter, right? It wasn't even a big deal. I could have just said no, right? I want it over here, but I wanted to honor them, right? But really what I took it was that I was somehow defective. I couldn't do even that right because that inner dialogue is often really brutal. But when we can learn to separate that and just say it's a behavior, right? Then I can even address somebody else and say, hey, I don't have to say you're an asshole. I go, hey, you're acting like an asshole. Doesn't mean that they are, but I mean, everybody's got a bad day, right? And you can, it's a consistency, right? It's over time you see behaviors. But I can give people a lot of leeway by saying, right, understanding that the behavior is different than the person. And so you can ask for a change in behavior without asking them to be somebody else. I don't need you to be fake, right? Just would you agree to change behavior, right, for a mutual win? But I'm coming back to this idea that if we want to really make a difference in this world, knowing the stuff isn't going to do much of anything. Really, what it does is it gets you beat up a lot and makes you hate people back, right? They hate you because you don't believe like they do, and you hate them because they're mean to you, right? I mean, isn't that what we see? I'm not attacking anybody because, again, I understand it. I get feeling just tired of everybody getting up in your grill. Man, I have days I want to shank somebody. It's like, right in the neck. Right, but over time, right, I get over it. I'm committed to being nonviolent, But anyway, I hope you guys can receive in the spirit in which it's intended this message, and that you consider this, that it is so much more important to find the true self that you were meant to be, not that you made, but who you were meant to be, is so much more important rabbit hole than mud flood or mud fossil. It's so much more important than flat earth. It's so much more important than jab safety. I mean, those things are not unimportant. But it's so much more important. If it's a spiritual battle for your very soul, then the other stuff is just to lay cookie crumbs, breadcrumbs on the way to get there, right? To wake you up. But if it's truly a battle for your soul, then fight that battle. Not the battle of trying to convince everybody that you're right. Because if you win the argument and lose the war, what did you win? What, you get a trophy? I don't know, man. Well, what I do know is that I fucking love you guys, and I'm so delighted week after week to share this time with you. One of the very interesting things I learned a number of years ago from talking with a rabbi is that in the Jewish faith, other than the Temple Mount, which they don't have access to currently, they don't really consider sacred space. It's really sacred time, which explains a lot in terms of the Sabbath and the festival events, that sort of thing, that's sacred time. And you go back, again, Book of Genesis, Wayne and I have talked about this before, the sky clock, and it says in the Book of Genesis that let them be for signs and seasons and for days and years. That's why they're there. It seems unremarkable that it should be so. Although what is remarkable, I don't know if you guys are familiar with a YouTuber called Dutch Sense, DUTCHSINSE, and he does and has been for a number of years predicting earthquakes, and he's sort of, I think, a little bit of anti-establishment, although he proclaims the globe and uses it and will say it, but he's also, I've heard him say some not detrimental things about, how about that? He's noted the prolific nature of those in the FE community, but he was not mean or dismissive. But he has of late, and I still haven't really taken time to really look at what he's doing to see how what he's doing to predict them. But he has, done some pretty remarkable things in terms of earthquake following and prediction. Much better, in fact, than the U.S. Geological Survey, as well as many other earthquake centers. However, the point I wanted to note is I noticed in one of his streams yesterday, he noted that there was a big earthquake that he had missed. He'd been gone a couple of weeks and said even that he was, depressed, and that was part of the reason he was away. But he had missed an 8 magnitude earthquake. But one of the things that he said that was fascinating to me, I just wanted to get Zach and Cammie on the horn right away, is that he had noted that there is at the equinoxes and at the solstices, they become far more active. And I want to I just woke up and went, what? What? I'm going to jump right into that. So I need to start to do some immediate research, and I want to do it with my friends. So anyway, love you guys. Thanks so much again for joining us, and I'm so delighted that you could be here with me again today. I'll be back tomorrow morning, as I usually am on Sunday mornings. 7 o'clock on the West Coast, 10 o'clock on the East Coast, for Ancient Wisdom for a Modern World. We're going to read some Proverbs and then maybe something else, just like a little brief gathering, if you will. Tomorrow evening at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, sort of scriptural, kind of the play on sola scriptura. Wayne McCroy joins me every other week, and then the off weeks I have a guest. Maybe I'll see if Ceiling Fan Man can drift in. Maybe you can, man. I'm not trying to twist your arm if you're still here, but it'd be great to have you. Hey, Joe, great to see you, my friend. And I guess that's it for today. Thanks, guys, so much for joining me. It's always, again, a pleasure to have you here, and it's an honor to be a member of your community. I look forward to seeing so many of you coming up the 27th of the month in South Carolina, the Solar Return Festival. Get your tickets now if you haven't already. I'll see if I can drop that into the chat, or maybe somebody can grab it. But I think, let's see here. Oh, I got this. This is, that is how to get your FTFF shirt. That's from Scooter. What I really want is this? Okay, so this will be the link to get your tickets. I'm going to have a variety of music and art there, of course, and that is going to be lit. Latest announcements, ODD TV is coming to perform live for his, I think, first ever time, so that'd be awesome. Christian Napa going to be there. Cheap Crow and the Flat Earth Worms, One Big Love, of course. Jason Lindgren going to do some of his songs, acoustic style. Media Bear is going to be there. Cammie and Zach doing their thing, which, of course, I'll be hanging out over there. And I booked a couple extra days on the to bookend so I can spend a little extra time having some fun. Of course, do a little jam session. If you're interested in that, send me an email. Links are in the show notes. Tell me what instrument you play, and we'll try to get you plugged in. It'd be awesome. So I hope, again, you've had a good time this morning, or at least gave you some food for thought. A little gravy for your biscuits today. And I hope to see you again tomorrow morning. As usual, I'll try to find something interesting to play on the way out. Typically, I'll find something that Joe and I played, Joe Ray, there in chat, and I wrote a number of songs, over 100 songs, some of them decent, between the mid-'80s and the late 90s. So, let's see. How about this one? This will be the original version with, let's see, Joe Ray on guitar, and myself on bass and keyboards, the late Jim Rogers on drums. I think we all did vocals except for Deanna Smith is on the lead vocal here. The song is called Still, from about 1993, 4, something like that. And so, again, hope you enjoy that. Hope to see you tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. for Ancient Wisdom for a Modern World. Thanks again for joining us, and we'll talk to you again soon.
Surrounded by music, of you.